think the book that I'm going to choose for this prompt... Okay, relax. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking around. Today it's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge video. I'm going to do my Reading Rush TBR for the Reading Rush Challenge, and then I'll be introducing myself a little bit more through the newbie tag. The Reading Rush Challenge is a reading challenge hosted by two people, Raylene LeMay and Ariel Bissett. One cool thing about this challenge is that you can find books that fit multiple prompts, so you don't have to read a ton of books in a week. Or if you're up to the challenge and you want to read 6 or 7 books, you can decide that for yourself. So I thought that was really fun. I'm really into reading challenges. I felt super motivated so far with my bookshelf challenge. I've already read all 3 of the books I picked for this month. And I loved them, so I'm really excited to see what this challenge will bring for me. So the first prompt for the Reading Rush Challenge is read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. So I'm a Scorpio. I was born in November, so my birthstone is citron, I think, or maybe it's pronounced citrine, I'm not sure. But it's sort of this like orangey, yellowish color. And so the book that I'm going to be reading for that is Geek Love by Katherine Dunn, and I'll put it right here. The reason why I chose this book is that it was recommended to me before, and it's been kind of on my radar for a while. Finally, the book was made available to me through the Libby app, so I have it on ebook. I don't actually have it in person, and so finally, after weeks and weeks of waiting, it's finally ready. I've checked it out, and so that will probably be the first book I'm reading, because I think I will only have about 4 days left on the loan at the start of the reading challenge. So I'm going to read that one straight away. I'm not completely sure of the plot. I know that it has something to do with a family of people involved in the circus, and that I believe there are some like human experimentation sort of plot that's going on, which is intriguing. So I'm really curious to try it. I definitely love books about the circus. The second prompt is read a book that starts with the word the. I ultimately decided to go with The Fault in Our Stars by John Green because I've never read it before. I've seen the movie. I really liked it. I cried. But for whatever reason, I just didn't read the book. I kind of came of age during the height of the John Green fandom. For whatever reason, a lot of my friends were really into it. I supported them with that, but I didn't get into it. I was always like an outsider looking at the fandom and looking at the books, which is kind of odd. But for whatever reason, I just never did, so I'm finally ready. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then this book, The Fault in Our Stars, actually needs the third prompt too, which is read a book that inspired a movie that you've already seen. The fourth prompt is read the first book that you touch. I have a selection of books that I would like to read, that I'm planning on reading. One book is actually already on this list, so I may make it easy on myself and only have 3 selections, or I may pick a different book that would add an additional book to my reading challenge, so we will see. I'm going to mix them up, probably just because I don't want to be able to feel the difference between the books. And then I'm going to just pick one. So let's see. Okay, I picked The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barberry. I actually read this book up until chapter 10, but I was going through some pretty difficult family stuff at the time. My mom was in a vegetative state for 16 months and eventually passed away, and so I picked up this book when she was going through that. And at the time, I just don't think I was like ready to deal with the subject matter. There are some themes of mental health and depression and things like that. So at the time, I just was really not ready to tackle that subject matter. I was reading books about nonfiction. I was trying to learn Korean at the time. I just wasn't interested in reading a fiction novel that required to give a lot of myself. So I'm curious to see where the book will take me this time. I'm ready to give it another shot. So that will be added to my Reading Rush TBR. The fifth prompt is read a book completely outside of your house. I'm not sure which book will fit this prompt. I'm looking forward to reading outside though. It's beautiful here, and I'm fortunate enough to have a lawn and a backyard where I can have some privacy and socially distance, not have to expose myself to anyone. I also have a hammock that I really like to read in when I get the chance, and so I'll probably take advantage of that. The sixth prompt is read a book in a genre that you have always wanted to read more of. So I think the book that I'm choosing for this prompt is going to be City of Thieves by David Benioff. Well, first of all, I am borrowing it from someone currently, and every time I see them or talk to them, they ask me about whether or not I've read it and whether I can give it back to them yet. So I'm planning on doing that. Also because I've always wanted to read more historical fiction, and I think it's something that whenever I read, I really love, but for whatever reason, I don't gravitate towards those books. I don't like choose them out for myself. So I think, I hope I'll love this one. I've read, I think, about 50 pages, and so far I've really liked it. I've since stopped reading that though, so that I can wait for this challenge to finish it up. And then number 7, the final prompt is read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. So City of Thieves takes place in Europe, so I'm good to go with that one. So those are my picks for the Reading Rush TBR. I hope that you guys follow along with me and share your picks as well. I'm really excited to do a reading challenge with a big community of people. I've never done this before. If you have a similar book or you're reading the same book as I am for one of the prompts, leave a comment below sharing what that book is. All right, on to the newbie tag. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? Well, I think that I started this channel just to have a space to share my thoughts about books and reading. Even though a lot of people in my life love reading, I wouldn't say that there's a ton of crossover. So, you know, there are books that my family is enjoying or books that my partner is enjoying, but they often are not the books that I'm reading. So I thought it would be a really fun place to find people with similar reading tastes and just a safe space to talk about books. The second reason I started this channel is to motivate me to read more. It's something that I definitely want to get more into a habit of doing. Second question, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? To be honest with you, I'm not really trying to be unique, you know, I'm just trying to be myself. So I would say that maybe something that might be less common, certainly not unique, but less common, is the fact that, I mean, part of my reading life is reading Spanish and English books. I'm trying to also read some more books in Spanish. I definitely find it very challenging to read fiction in Spanish because it's not my first language. And so it's a grow for me. I definitely want to grow in that area. So there are going to be some foreign language Spanish books on this channel. If there's an English version, I'll always link it as well. But if there isn't, that's okay. I'm still going to talk about them. So that might be something that if you're looking for bilingual reads, I could always make a video on that, or I could even challenge myself to read more of them. So that might be one unique-ish thing. Another thing that might be considered somewhat unique is that, I mean, I'm really just trying to figure out what I like to read. So I'm pretty open to anything. There's going to be a lot of variety. I'm not really concerned with like what's popular right now and what's selling well and what's coming out. I mean, I'm definitely open to reading new books, but I wouldn't say that that's my focus, just because there are so many books that I have not read that are already out. And so I'm really going to try to focus on reading the books that are on my bookshelf and books that I can get from the library within a reasonable time. There definitely might be some more easily accessible books that have been out a little bit longer that you can easily get from your library or a used bookstore. I'm not really looking to buy a ton of hardcover books since, like, I'm on a budget. You know, I gotta plan what I want with my life. Books are expensive, you know what I'm saying? So I love the library. The third question is, what am I most excited for about this channel? I would definitely say that I am just interested in finding that spark for reading. Again, it's something I've always loved to do. I mean, like I said, I am an English teacher. I teach it for my job, and I love to see kids get excited about reading, and I love to help them read better. But over time, I just stopped reading for myself as much. So I definitely think that's like the thing I'm most excited about. And so far, in just this 1 week I made this video, I've finished so many more books than I normally have. I've enjoyed them, and I've really gotten a lot out of it already. So I feel even more excited to continue that. Another thing that I'm really excited for is just to be able to give and receive recommendations for books. You always get these interesting recommendations that you would have never heard of otherwise. And so I'm just really looking forward to getting more recommendations, giving out recommendations to others. And then the third reason is that I really want to read more diverse books that show me a different perspective, so that I can use that to not only inform my profession, but also so that I can add them to my classroom and implement them into my teaching. I'm always looking for age-appropriate, children-specific books that would work in my classroom so that students can get more varied perspectives, a variety of perspectives that reflect themselves as well as shed light into, another person or another student, as there is such a wealth of literature available, and the options that we tend to teach are pretty narrow. The fourth question is, why do I love reading? When I was in teaching school, there was this concept that was taught to me that has always stuck with me, and it's this idea of windows and mirrors. With reading or with literature, if you think about a window, right? If you look through a window, you're looking out at the world, you're looking out at something else. And so that would be the type of book that provides like a different experience to you. And then of course there's a mirror, which is like looking at yourself. It's a reflection of some aspect of your identity, right? Because we all have a lot of identities, but some aspect of your identity that you reflect and connect with and see yourself in. And so I would say that I love reading because it gives this incredible opportunity for windows and mirrors. You can see yourself in a book, and sometimes it's incredibly cathartic, and sometimes it's incredibly challenging because you see yourself in a way that makes you feel vulnerable, or it's sort of an uncanny representation of yourself. I love reading because it offers that duality, that challenging different perspectives, but also the ability for you to reflect and feel validated by experiences that reflect your own. Reading is particularly unique in that way, and I think that's why I love it so much. The next question is, what book or series first got you into reading? This would definitely be the Aberrat series by Clive Barker. I was in 4th grade, I believe, and I got this book from my friend, and it quickly spread around the classroom with my little group of girlfriends, and we all read it and loved it. We were talking about it constantly. The illustrations were amazing and really, really added to the experience of reading the book. On top of that, I just loved the protagonist, a young female who had some trouble at home and ended up leaving and discovering this huge adventure that lay before her. I mean, it's nothing, that basic premise is not necessarily unique, but the world of Aberrat definitely is unique, and it's one that I really enjoyed existing in while I was reading. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't have too many questions, but I would say that one question I have for fellow readers, including booktubers, would be, how do you read and actually retain audiobooks? Because I don't know what it is. Like, I try my very hardest. I go on a walk. I'm not really doing anything else, but 10 minutes go by and I have tuned it out. I'm not sure what's going on. It could be a book that I love actually reading and I'm super immersed in when I'm reading it. There are days where I'm not really able to sit down and read for hours on end. I'm doing other things. I really want to improve my auditory listening skills since I feel like it's such a missed opportunity. I'm not really able to retain and really get the most out of these stories. So I'm curious how you guys have improved your auditory listening skills. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Definitely for me, it's consistency. I'm great at starting something, but then I tend to lose motivation. When did you start reading? I was a reader from a very early age, all the way until I started going to college. I loved reading. I wouldn't say that I was always devouring a large quantity of books. I was definitely in my younger years. In high school, I slowed down a little bit, but I definitely always enjoyed it. In college, I read as well, but I would say that my free time really was filled with friends and socializing. I went to a school that was really academic and I took my schooling very seriously, and so I was a great student, but I just didn't practice that same reading hygiene that I had in my earlier years. Netflix and YouTube and Stardew Valley and all of those things contributed to me reading less in college. I want to read more. I want to be able to enrich my life with what I read. Where do you read? Mostly I read at home. I would like to think that I'm the person that reads outside, but to be honest with you, I really don't read outside very often. So I definitely want to do that more, and I'm hopefully with the Reading Rush Challenge, I'll be able to get into that habit as well. What kind of books do I like to read? I love books that make me laugh out loud. I wouldn't say that they have to be funny books. I just like books that have a monologue or trains of thought that make me laugh. Comedic relief in books is something that I definitely look forward to always and appreciate about a book. I've also noticed that I really love books about that incorporate mythology and some types of gods or deities. I'm not exactly sure why, but I read American Gods this year and I loved it. Circe was incredible. The Song of Achilles was incredible. I'm finding that, these books about mythology and gods and all of these sort of creatures that are like us but yet have a psychology that is so different from ours, I just find it fascinating. Tacking on to that point, fantasy books that seem somewhat possible, are plausible, are books that I tend to gravitate towards and love. Going back to American Gods, it takes place in the real world and it sort of has a somewhat plausible explanation for how all of these gods could exist. Another example would be A Song of Ice and Fire. The people feel human and they feel alive, and even if there are mystical elements, ultimately you can really relate and understand almost all of the characters. These sort of gritty or realistic fantasy is something that I'm pretty interested in and tend to like. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.